As some of you may have heard, there was a decision that came out today by a grand jury not to indict police officers who had interacted with an individual named Eric Garner in New York City, all of which was caught on videotape and speaks to the larger issues that we've been talking about now for the last week, the last month, the last year, and sadly, for decades.
Now, police are investigating one of their own after a video surfaced showing an officer drawing his gun on apparently unarmed pool party goers. The video first shows one officer in particular aggressively rounding up kids after officers responded to a disturbance at a community pool Friday evening. The McKinney Police Department says several juveniles who did not have permission to be at the pool refused to leave and had begun fighting. One officer is seen wrestling a female to the ground, and a small crowd gathered there, and the officer can then be seen pulling his gun before other officers quickly rushed in. Take a look at more here.
And that is the concern on the part of too many minority communities that law enforcement is not working with them and dealing with them in a fair way.
Mystery death of a young man in Baltimore police custody. The autopsy on this 25-year-old is now complete. The names of the officers involved in his arrest released. But more information has not led, though, to any more clarity as far as how this 25-year-old suspect, Freddie Gray, broke his neck after Baltimore police arrested him. This is back on April 12th. He died a week later.
Shorty, that was after they tased out him like that. After they did tase Joe like that, you wonder why he can't use his legs. Yeah, I sure will.
But I want everybody to understand that this week, in the wake of Ferguson, we initiated a task force whose job it is to come back to me with specific recommendations about how we strengthen the relationship between law enforcement and communities of color and minority communities that feel that bias is taking place. That we are going to take specific steps to improve the training.
Get your hands out now! Get your hands out! Get them out! Shots fired, shots fired. Get me medical here now. Hands, give me your hands. Now.
From a courtroom to a coma in a matter of hours. Last week, Mitchell Martinez got into a jail transport van in Vero Beach, Florida. About 3 miles and 8 minutes later, the 35-year-old is in cardiac arrest. He dies 4 days later.
Just a shock for everybody that knows him.
For Martinez's friends and family, the circumstances surrounding his death don't add up. They say Martinez was burdened by his court date last week, wanting only to clear his name. Now, after his death, the family says it may be the Indian River Sheriff's Office that's going to have to clear theirs.
We are going to be scrupulous in investigating cases where we are concerned about the impartiality and accountability that's taking place.
Do you beat your kids too? He probably
does. The daughter of a shoplifting suspect shot by the Memphis police is speaking out tonight. Kelsey Golden first watched the video, which aired on Fox 13, which appears to show an officer using possible excessive force on her father after he was shot. Now, she says that George Golden is partially brain dead. Police say they shot the suspect after he resisted arrest, and they felt that their lives were in danger during that scuffle.
Daryl, we've obtained the police affidavit, which doesn't even mention an officer-involved shooting. Kelsey Golden says her father was shot in the chest and is in critical condition tonight. She says doctors told her he's partially brain dead due to lack of oxygen, which she blames on the officers who she says didn't quickly rush him to the hospital. Now she wants answers into possible police misconduct.
And as I said, when I met with folks both from Ferguson and law enforcement and clergy and civil rights activists, I said this is an issue that we've been dealing with for too long, and it's time for us to make more progress than we've made. And I'm not interested in talk, I'm interested in action, and I am absolutely committed as President of the United States to making sure that we have a country in which everybody believes in the core principle that we are equal under the law.
How did dropping off children at school suddenly escalate to this? Police body cam video captures the entire incident.
Do not touch me! Do not, I'm pregnant, do not touch me!
Cooks is 8 months pregnant and never stops screaming.
What are you doing?
We are not going to let up until we see a strengthening of the trust and a strengthening of the accountability that exists between our communities and our law enforcement.
Got the knife, I got the knife. Spring 422, start 4355. You guys all right? Yeah, we're good. It's all good. Give me his arm. Give me his arm. He's shot! Good. Yeah. Offender is shot multiple times, start 4355, referencing.
And right now, unfortunately, we are seeing too many instances where people just do not have confidence that folks are being treated fairly. And in some cases, those may be misperceptions, but in some cases, that's a reality. And it is incumbent upon all of us as Americans, regardless of race, region, faith.
We begin with what authorities in North Charleston, South Carolina say is murder. Murder, plain and simple. Murder caught on videotape. Murder committed, they say, by a police officer. The video, which we're going to show you in a moment, is shocking to say the least. A man shot while running away from a police officer, shot multiple times with his back turned. The officer is white, the suspect African American. The FBI is now investigating, as is the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. The officer says he believed his life was in danger after the suspect took his stun gun. The video, however, seems to tell a very different story. Eight shots fired at the suspect who had turned his back, turned the whole time, running away.
That we recognize this is an American problem and not just a black problem or a brown problem or a Native American problem. This is an American problem. When anybody in this country is not being treated equally under the law, that's a problem. And it's my job as president to help solve it.
Freeway takedown. Drivers stunned as a CHP officer repeatedly punches a woman, and now an investigation is underway. The violent confrontation happened Tuesday on the eastbound side of the 10 freeway.
Oh shit, he is beating her up, yo.
Really? It does, really? freaking out, man. You are freaking out, man.
What the